What's up, fruitful investors? Welcome to Multifamily Investing for Beginners Part 2, the advanced lesson. So if you missed the first video, I'll link it right about here. Check that out because that is really the introduction to multifamily, and it teaches you all about NOI, net operating income, which is so crucial to understanding multifamily. If you don't understand NOI, this whole video is probably not gonna make too much sense. So go over there, watch that first video, and then come back for the advanced lesson. So number one, the most important part of understanding multifamily is that multifamily is all business. So unlike single family properties where we get comparable sales around the area, right? It's all about feelings, emotions. What does the buyer like about the property? Is the paint color nice? Is the flooring nice, etc.? This doesn't matter really at all in multifamily. So comps don't really matter. I'll tell you how we get the values, but we don't value multifamily properties based on comparable sales, really. So I'm talking about 6 or more units. This is considered commercial multifamily. So don't get confused with commercial buildings like stores or hair salons, etc. I'm not talking about that. Those are commercial financing rules as well. But even if we have residential buildings with units, with renters, if we have 6 or more of them, 6 or more units, this is considered commercial multifamily. And the rules are completely different than a duplex, triplex, fourplex, or a single family home. Those properties, the comps matter, the local sales, what's sold around the area, paint colors, flooring, etc. In multifamily, business, commercial, it really doesn't matter. So your main focus when you're buying these type of properties is to raise the rents. Now, why is that? Because income dictates value. So this is how we dictate the value of the building, how much it's worth. It is all about the rent. So you want to drive those up as much as possible. So multifamily is really a long-term game. So we can flip real estate houses like this. We can flip them in 30 days, 60 days, etc., and make money. Multifamily buildings, generally, it's a more long-term plan. We're looking to flip the building and flip all the units, but it's going to take 1 to 3 years on average, depending on the building, before tenants leave naturally, or we pay tenants to leave so we can renovate those units and get a better quality tenant in to pay more rent to jack up that value. So I'll show you an example of how this works and how powerful it is to become wealthy. If you want to become like really wealthy in real estate, commercial multifamily is definitely the way to go and park your money. Most of us start in single family because it's cheaper, it's easier, we understand it, right? We live in a single family home, we understand how that works. So we start off with that, but then once we make a lot of money in single family, we tend to, most investors, start parking that in the commercial multifamily because we can make a lot of money here. So for example, let's say we have a $2 million building, and we're gonna say this is a 15 unit building. So let's say the net operating income, and again, if you don't understand this, watch the first video how we get this, but essentially, if you take away all of the expenses, right, the property managers, property taxes, utilities, the garbage disposal, snow removal, etc., all of the expenses except for the mortgage, we don't calculate that. So all of the expenses minus the rental income is gonna leave us with the net operating income, the net income before servicing the mortgage payments. So let's say on this $2 million building, it's a 15 unit building, for example, the net operating income currently, when we're gonna buy this building, let's say, is $120,000 a year. Okay, so we do yearly cost on multifamily commercial. So this would equal a 6% cap rate. Again, I discussed cap rates in huge detail in the first video. But a cap rate is essentially how we investors and appraisers in commercial real estate here, how we appraise and value buildings. So cap rates are very important to understand as a multifamily investor. So a 6% cap rate can change from area to area. I'll talk about my area at the very end, but a 6% cap rate in my local area would be like a B-, C+ property. So like a everyday blue collar kind of tenant profile in an okay area, that would be a 6% cap rate in my area. So this is like a decent building. So I'll talk about some strategies as well of what we want to do long-term, but that's kind of what that means. But let's say we buy this building now, which is a pretty good deal here in my local area. 6% is like a really good deal. Let's say we can raise each unit, all 15 units, we can raise the rent by $200. I'll share with you how to do that. But let's say we do renovations, we kick them out, etc. They leave, and we end up raising all the units over 2 years, let's say. So $200 every single month times 15 units, times 12 months a year equals $36,000 a year in extra net income. So now the total net operating income after we kind of flip the building over 2 years, 3 years, whatever it took, now the net operating income is $156,000 a year. So that we raise the income a lot. Now, what is this gonna do to the value of the building based on the commercial financing rules? Remember, we're not raising the value based on comparable sales. Those play a very small part. The investor buying our building now doesn't really care about the flooring, the paint colors, the nice frilly stuff that the single family buyers care about. They care about the numbers. So let's say we sell the building again at a 6% cap rate. So if we take $156,000 a year and we divide that by 6%, right, 0.06, this is gonna equal a value of $2.6 million. So let's say we spent, let's say $200,000, $300,000 renovating the building over time, flipping the building, right? So we bought it at 2 million, we spent 300 grand renovating all the units, all the common areas, etc. And now it's valued at 2.6 million. So we made $300,000 in 2 years, let's say, not including mortgage pay down or anything else, cash flow. So that's really good. That's the power of multifamily buildings. But that's not it. What you want to do is buy the cap rate as high as you can, and you want to sell it as a low cap rate as you can. So you know the buy low, sell high mantra in real estate when we're buying homes. That's kind of how the residential financing works. So when we buy homes to flip, we want to buy low and then we want to sell them high. With multifamily commercial, it's the complete opposite. We want to buy at the highest cap rate we can and we want to sell it at the lowest cap rate we can. So I'll show you how this works. So let's say we have the same, right, $156,000 a year. The income hasn't changed, the area hasn't changed, but this time we're going to sell it to a buyer at a 5.5% cap rate. So 156 divided by 0.55. This now makes the value just over 2.8 million. So $200,000 more. The area hasn't changed, the income hasn't changed. We just sold it at a lower cap rate because now the building's more desirable. Even though the area hasn't changed, now we're attracting a better quality tenant. All the common areas are painted nice. We changed the floor in the common areas, so when you walk in the building, it feels nice. We hung some plants in the corner, etc. We renovated all the units to a modern renovation feel. We got good tenants, right? So the building now is more attractive. So we're gonna sell it at a lower cap rate. Should an investor also agree with that rate of return? A cap rate is really a rate of return. So if an investor is comfortable with that rate of return, they're gonna buy the building. Let's say we sell it even lower. So again, the same income every year. This time we're gonna sell it at a 5% cap rate. Let's see what the value is now. Just over $3.1 million. So here we started off 2.6 million with the same cap rate, right? Same area, maybe we didn't renovate it all that much, just enough to get good quality tenants. Here we went a little more overboard. It's really more desirable. Even more desirable, we sold it at a 5% cap rate. Look at the amount of money, 2.6 all the way to 3.12 million. We bought it at 2 million. So almost $1 million, over $1 million if we did this example. This is a real example. This happens on a daily basis with my clients. This is what we're doing. So this is the power of multifamily real estate. You ain't gonna make $1 million on a home in 2 or 3 years, let's say, but you can with commercial financing, totally different valuations. So this is really the power of multifamily real estate. So number 4, what are the easiest ways to raise rents, right? This is our whole objective as a multifamily investor. Our only job is to raise that rent, raise that income, because you see what happened on the last page. One of the easiest ways to do this is to add a dishwasher in every unit. So if there isn't one already, just simply adding a dishwasher can easily add $50 a month to the rent. So you can take over a building, go into the tenant, knock on the door, say, hey, I'm the new landlord. If I were to install a dishwasher into your kitchen, will you agree to pay $50 a month more? Most people will. You can even jack that up maybe to $100 more just for having a dishwasher. So it's definitely worth it. You're gonna say, oh, I gotta spend like $1,000 to buy the dishwasher, pay the plumber to retrofit the cabinets. $1,000 isn't worth it. You saw what happened on the last page when we raised the rent. I've showed that on the last video, the last multifamily part 1 video. I showed the exact example of adding a dishwasher for $50 a month. It's so worth it. You'll see on that video. The second thing we can do is renovate the cosmetics. So paint, floor, trim, right? You've seen my videos on how I renovate my properties. The classic cosmetic renovations, when a tenant leaves or a tenant moves out, or if we pay a tenant to leave, we can go in there, renovate the whole unit. That's what I always recommend. Don't re-rent the unit as is unless you're really tight on money. But if you have the intent to be a real multifamily investor, treat this like a business. When a tenant moves out, it's a great opportunity. Flip that unit. Right? Units are small, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. It's probably gonna cost you $15,000 max to flip a unit. It's not that much and it's totally worth it. You saw on the last page. So do all the cosmetics, make it desirable, attract a better quality tenant. Remember, you want to sell this building in 3, 5, 7 years or whatever. So you want to get some good tenants in there that a new investor is going to pay that lower cap rate, because you can't sell it at the same cap rate if the tenants suck. You're not going to attract the right buyer. The investor wants a good investment, solid cash flow, and they want to have reliable tenants. So if you're just attracting scumbag tenants, it's not going to be too good for you. So renovate it, get all the cosmetics up, make it modern. Next thing you can do, as I said, pay the tenants to leave. The thing with multifamily is that most tenants stay in these buildings for like 10, 20, 30 years sometimes. A lot of the multifamily tenants don't leave because they're paying so low in rent. If they stay, they keep that low rent. But also, multifamily attracts usually low income tenants. There's a reason why they're living in a building. They can't afford to live in a house or etc. or a townhouse. So they're renting a unit. So we tend to attract low quality tenants who never leave. So you can't sit around and wait for tenants to naturally leave if they've been there for like 10, 15 years. They're probably gonna be there for another 10. So what you can do is pay them to leave. And I said it on the last video, and I said, pay them $1,000. If they say, no, that's not worth it, I'm not leaving. $2,000, no, that's not enough. $5,000 if you leave. A lot of tenants will say $5,000, okay, I'm out of here next month. I'll sign the paper and I'm out of here. Now you're gonna say $5,000 times 15 units I gotta pay to leave? That's crazy, there's no way that's worth it. I showed you in the last video and just on the last example here, how it's worth it. It is definitely worth it in most cases to pay a tenant to leave, flip the unit, get a higher quality tenant, jack that rent up and jack the income up, and then sell it to an investor. Remember, this is a strategic business multifamily, totally different from single family and duplexes, etc. So those are some quick, easy ways. I also want to mention, because I say this all the time, don't forget about the common areas. My writing is terrible, I apologize. Common areas, so the common hallways. Right when you walk in the building and there's a foyer, renovate that first. When you first buy the building, the first thing you should do is renovate the hallways, the common area, change the floor, put some nice trim in, put some plants hanging out, even if they're fake, we'll definitely put fake plants so you don't have to water them. It makes a huge difference. So when your tenants walk into the building to come home after a long day of work, they feel nice. It's a nice building. And also, when you do renovate each unit after that, when you're attracting new tenants to come through, they're not walking through a dungy, grungy old hallway to get to the nice unit. Nobody likes that either. They want to walk into a palace and feel nice, feel like they live in a safe area. When their family comes over to visit them, they're not scared for their child about living in this building, etc. So really focus on the common areas. Don't just focus on the units, really change that up, and that should be, like I said, your first thing you do when you buy a multifamily building. Get those common areas up. The fifth thing to understand about multifamily buildings is that areas dictate cap rate. So you're probably wondering, well, Matt, how did you find that 6% cap rate, that 6.5% cap rate that you were talking about, etc.? The areas dictate this. So you want to work with an investment savvy realtor. This is number one. So when you're buying single family properties, I always say this, always work with an investment savvy realtor no matter what you're buying. This is taking forever. always work with an investment savvy realtor because they know the business, they invest in themselves, they have the contractors, they have all the contacts, and they know your end game. So never work with a Joe Blow realtor. If your cousin's a realtor and you feel obligated to work with them, if your uncle's a realtor or your uncle knows somebody, etc. I know it's tough, but if you're buying investment properties of any kind, never ever work with a regular realtor. Always seek out a savvy investment realtor that invests in real estate themselves. Do some research in your local area, look on social media, look online, ask other investors in the area, ask property managers who they recommend to use. You just find a savvy investment realtor. But if you're buying what I'm talking about here, buildings, like you can never, if you use like a regular realtor, you're gonna get screwed so bad. You need to use an investment savvy realtor. It's even more important because this is a totally different ball game. You can lose your shirt so easily. We're talking about big money here. You cannot afford to make a mistake. So the area that you're in dictates the cap rate. And if you're working with a Joe Blow realtor, they'll have no idea what you're talking about, but the investment focused realtor knows exactly, okay, this part of town is a 5% cap rate. It's a higher quality area, right? This area over here is a war zone, right? The cap rate's 9%. Okay, so the investment savvy realtors know this and the appraisers know this. They also specialize in multifamily properties when they come to evaluate your building later or when you buy it, if it's too late, right? They know all the cap rates in your town. So if you're using a regular realtor, you're gonna be in big trouble. So the areas dictate. So basically, the higher the cap rate, the less desirable the area, the lower the quality. So if we're in the war zones, right, 9, 10, 11%, that probably means it's a bad area. If we're in the 4%, 5%, this means we're probably closer to downtown, closer to amenities, higher end area. So the areas dictate the cap rate. So don't forget that. You can't just make it up and throw it out in the air. The areas dictate the cap rate, and the cap rates in the end dictate the value of the building. So understand this and how this all works. Again, in the first video, I discussed this in great detail, but I'll share with you my local area. A lot of people on my channel watch from Toronto area, Kitchener-Waterloo, where I am. I'm in Kitchener-Waterloo. So in my area, I'm just gonna write KW. So my area of Kitchener-Waterloo, here's how it goes. So a D area will equal an 8% cap rate or more. So a lot of people watch this video who are in smaller towns, smaller areas are going, Matt, 8% is like the norm. 8% is a good, that means it's in a good area in my town. I'm talking about my specific area. So Kitchener-Waterloo is 1 hour south of Toronto. So it is a very high quality area. The real estate in my area is very high quality. Not as high quality as Toronto or Vancouver or Edmonton, let's say, big city centers, but pretty close. My area is pretty high quality. So that means the cap rates will be lower. Your rate of return, yes, will be lower. However, you're getting a better quality tenant. There's more industries in the area. It's recession proof, etc. So there's lots of benefits of investing in a better area. So if you want high cash flow, you're gonna have to go to maybe smaller towns and risk a little more. Put up with the chance of, in recessions, you're gonna be hurting at the very beginning and you're gonna be the last to recover in a recession. Here where we are in Kitchener-Waterloo, we really honestly almost never feel a recession. When we had 2008, which was the biggest recession since the Great Depression, nothing happened in Kitchener-Waterloo. Honestly, nothing. People got shook up a little bit, but in terms of real estate and the economy in my local area, nothing happened. But you pay for that. You pay for the quality. So a D area in Kitchener would be an 8% cap rate. So if you find a property with 8% cap rate, it's probably in a war zone. So just be aware of that. Okay, so a C area in Kitchener-Waterloo would be between 7 and 8%. So this is like your working class, blue collar, there might be a factory down the street. It's a nice area, but it's not like that nice to live in. It definitely will attract a lower income tenant. Like I said, an everyday Joe, blue collar type of person. Great areas, I love these areas. But this is where you're getting kind of the C area cap rates. A B area in Kitchener-Waterloo will be between 6 and 7%. So this is like a good quality area. We're getting close to downtown. We're close to the highways. This is again where I want to be. I like these areas the best. I'll tell you why in a second. So an A area, like a super high quality area, is right downtown, probably a newer building, right? We're talking 4 to like 5.5%. I should change that to 5.5, but between 5.5, 6, 7% is a B area, and Kitchener-Waterloo, an A area is 4 to 5.5, 5%. That's an A area. So very low rate of return. Remember, your cap rate essentially means rate of return, and the higher the quality area, the lower the cap rate, the lower the rate of return, but the more boring it's gonna be, the more predictable it's gonna be, the higher quality it's gonna be. Maybe it's a newer, brand new building, etc. So there's benefits to each. If you go to the war zones, you're gonna make more cash flow, but your building's probably shit, and the tenants are not gonna be that good either. If you're in the A area, you're getting super good quality tenants, but you're making less money, less cash flow every single month. Maybe no money. Maybe you gotta put down like 30, 40% to buy this building to make it work, make it cash flow, but it's boring. So the strategy I like to use is I like to buy C quality buildings, which is another whole thing, in B areas. So I'm buying a higher cap rate building, but in a B area. So I can transition, I can flip that building from here into this category, which is the example I showed you, right? We're gonna buy it at a 6% cap rate and we're gonna sell it at a 5% cap rate. At the time of making this video, I'm actually doing that right now with partners. The property closes in 2 months, but it's exactly that. We're flipping all of the units. It's gonna be a $200,000 to $250,000 renovation, but we're gonna flip every single unit and move that cap rate from a 6.5% cap rate, is where we bought it. We're gonna try and sell it or appraise it, get our money back at a 4.3% cap rate. So we bought this shitty building literally in an A area, like top area, 300 meters from the Google headquarters in Kitchener, 300 meters from the LRT and bus station that goes right to Toronto every day. So the area really can't get much better. We bought a shitty building that nobody wanted. So this is how you do the advanced strategy in multifamily. If you learned anything, if you liked anything, please click like right below. It goes a long way to helping these videos get more views. If you have any questions about multifamily that I didn't answer, comment below. This video is going on really long. My mouth is getting dry. Comment below your questions and maybe I'll make a part 3 and answer your questions below. I'll see you on the next video.